And good day, my listeners. We're at chapter 15, verse 6 of the book of Job. Your own mouth condemns you, and not I. Yes, your own lips testify against you. Notes. He's basically he's condemning Job while claiming he isn't. Okay? The self-righteous enjoy putting words into other people's mouths of whom they are condemning. That should be very, very obvious with this knucklehead. Verse 7, Are you the first man who was born, or were you made before the hills? Have you heard the secret of God, and do you restrain wisdom to yourself? Notes. In other words, he's asking him, are you claiming to have an in with God? Are you like his little second lieutenant to the general, Verse 9. What do you know that we don't know? What understanding do you have which is not in us? Notes. Now, Eliphaz is very plainly agitated at the statements made by Job in my previous teaching, and, you can imagine why. He's a self-righteous nitwit who thinks he knows quite a bit whenever, in fact, he knows very little. Verse 10. With us are both the gray-headed and very aged men, much elder than your father. Are the consolations of God small with you? Is there any secret thing with you? Notes. In verse 10, he is here saying that these friends are far wiser than Job. And the man is claiming that they have been consoling Job, but that he doesn't seem to appreciate it. Well, what kind of consolation is that? To get told that you're doing some secret wickedness. Verse 12. Why does your heart carry you away? And what do your eyes wink at? Notes. In other words, don't you see the true condition that you're really in? He's accusing Job once again of secret wickedness right here. Verse 13. That you turn your spirit against God and let such words go out of your mouth. Notes. Okay, now, they never say to what particular words they object to. They just kind of leave it kind of open. They really don't agree with Job on anything. Verse 14. What is man that he should be clean, and he which is born of a woman that he should be righteous? Notes. In other words, Job's sins are so grievous that his punishment is very, very just according to them. That's self-righteousness right there in action, my friends. Verse 15, Behold, the Lord puts no trust in his saints. Yes, the heavens are not clean in his sight. Notes. Now, the first part of this phrase is untrue, while the second phrase is actually true. However, the heavens and the earth are going to be cleaned according to 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 7 through 13. This man is basically repeating what the evil spirit earlier on, in chapter 6, I think it was, saying that God does not regard his saints. Well, why in the world did he send his son to die for him if he doesn't think they're of any value or of any regard? Okay? So, right here you can see he's making a huge mistake in that first verse. Verse 16, How much more abominable and filthy is man which drinks iniquity like water? Notes. Now, it cannot be doubted here that Job is individually pointed out here and not mankind in general. Well, Eliphaz could not be more wrong if my assumptions are correct. Verse 17, I will show you, hear me, and that which I have seen I will declare. Notes. Now, here we have more self-righteousness. You just listen to me and I'll show you everything that I know of. Eliphaz now, he proclaims his judgment upon Job. Verse 18, Which wise men have told from their fathers and have not hid it. Unto whom alone the earth was given, and no stranger passed among them. The wicked man travails with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden to the oppressor. Notes. Now, verse 18, it goes on to say, which wise men have told from their fathers and have not hid it. However, this was worldly wisdom and not wisdom from above. You need that kind of wisdom according to James chapter 3, verse 15. Verse 19 goes on to say, unto whom alone the earth was given, and no stranger passed among them. Well, to dilute worldly wisdom is what it's talking about. Verse 21, a dreadful sound is in his ears. In prosperity the destroyer shall come upon him. Notes. Now, this is directed at Job, keep in mind. Okay, verse 22. He believes not that he shall return out of darkness, and he is waited for of the sword. He wanders abroad for bread, saying, where is it? He knows that the day of darkness is ready at his hand. Trouble and anguish shall make him afraid. They shall prevail against him as a king ready to the battle. For he stretches out his hand against God and strengthens himself against the Almighty. Notes. He's saying this to Job, saying that Job is actually against God, which is nonsense. And as a side note, I do have a slight cold. It's been crazy off over here with the weather, as you might imagine. Verse 26. He runs upon him, even on his neck, upon the thick bosses of his bucklers, because he covers his face with the fatness and makes collops of fat on his flanks. And he dwells in desolate cities and in houses which no man inhabits, which are ready to become heaps. He shall not be rich, neither shall his substance continue, neither shall he prolong the perfection thereof upon the earth. Notes. He's saying that the hypocrisy of Job is now being found out, even though they couldn't actually rightfully accuse him of any wrongdoing. So it's just a load of nonsense. Verse 30. He shall not depart out of darkness. The flame shall dry up his branches, and by the breath of his mouth shall he go away. Notes. This is kind of a figure of speech saying that Job has absolutely no hope. Things are just going to get bad, and they're just going to get even worse and worse. Verse 31. Let not him who is deceived trust in vanity, for vanity shall be his recompense. Notes. He's saying that Job has been tricked and deceived, and so all his trust and faith are of no consequence at all. Verse 32. It shall be accomplished before his time, and his branch shall not be green. He shall shake off his unripe grape as the vine, and shall cast off his flower as the olive. For the congregation of hypocrites shall be desolate, and fire shall consume the tabernacles of bribery. Ooh. Notes. Now, once again, Job is accused of being a hypocrite and doing all these horrible things. Now, what kind of friends are they? Now, honestly, I do believe that these people are really trying to actually help Job, but their heart and their mind are not right with it, and they're actually getting more and more vicious with it. Verse 35. They conceive mischief and bring forth vanity, and their belly prepares deceit. Notes. Now, keep in mind that God allowed the prattle of these friends here to be included in the sacred text, no matter how wrong it actually was, in order to show us that circumstances rarely present the true picture. Now, understanding this, we had best withhold judgment, okay? Don't go around and judge people. Let's just let the chips fall where they may. Chapter 16. Then Job answered and said, I have heard many such things. Miserable comforters all you really are. And so they were, and so it is. Verse 3. And my pages are stuck together. Shall vain words have an end? Or what emboldens you that you answer? I also could speak as you do if your soul were in my soul's stead. I could heap up words against you and shake my head at you. Notes. He's saying that we could do a little role-playing little bit right here. You put yourself in my shoes and let me treat you that way. Now, Job was right. Their words were vain, and if you take that word vain and translate it back to the original Hebrew, it means emptiness. Empty nothingness, okay? And he goes on to say, you have basically accused me of wickedness when there is much dirt in your own house as well. Verse 5, but I would strengthen you with my mouth, and the moving of my lips should assuage your grief. Notes. Now, from what the Lord said about Job in chapter 42, verse 7, there is every evidence, if the tables were reversed, that he would have truly have comforted them. But look at what they're doing to him. They come to help him with their wisdom, and instead now they're getting to where they're just putting him down and accusing him of all kinds of rotten things. That's not how you help people. You're supposed to build people up in their times of distress, not tear them down even worse and accuse God of being against them, or you being against God. That's nonsense. Verse 6, though I speak, my grief is not assuaged, and though I forbear, what am I eased? Notes. He's saying that whether I talk or not, my grief is basically going to be the same. Verse 7, but now he who is the Lord, he made me weary. You have made desolate all my company. You have filled me with wrinkles, which is a witness against me. And my leanness rising up in me bears witness to my face. He who is the Lord tears me in his wrath, who hates me. He gnashes upon me with his teeth. My enemy sharpens his eyes upon me. Notes. Now, Job is incorrect in all of this. There was no wrath of God against Job, which he will ultimately see. And he was definitely wrong in saying that God hated him in any respect. Verse 10, but it certainly looked like it, I must admit. Verse 10, these have gaped upon me with their mouth. They have smitten me upon the cheek reproachfully. Notes. Now, of course, we're talking about the friends and others. Scripture. They have gathered themselves together against me. Notes. Now, this right here he's actually correct with. Now, these statements are very similar to some of those used about the Lord in Psalms chapter 35, verse 16, and chapter 37, verse 12. I'll cover that in the next book of Psalms. Verse 11, God has delivered me to the ungodly and turned me over into the hands of the wicked. Notes. Now, if you've been paying attention to this book, he's only partly correct on that. God really didn't deliver him into the ungodly, and he did not really turn him over to the hands of the wickedness, but he allowed it to happen in order to test Job. Verse 12, I was at ease, but he who is the Lord has broken me asunder. He has also taken me by my neck and shaken me to pieces and set me up for his mark. Notes. Now, obviously, this is only partially true. He's thinking that for some reason that God is somehow against him. But the truth of the matter is that God's eyes were never closer on this man at this time. Verse 13, his archers compass me round about. He cleaves my reins asunder and does not spare. He pours out my gall upon the ground. He breaks me with breach upon breach, and he runs upon me like a giant. Notes. While it was actually Satan who did these things, the Lord allowed him to do so. So in essence, well, Job wasn't really actually wrong in this particular statement. He had some bad ideas. And we will pick up in chapter 16, verse 15 of the book of Job. Thank you, and God bless.